Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the Indies Mini Marathon for, well, technically this is the August Patrons Reward. This is really, though, as you can see, October. Normally I would have done this near the very end of September, but as everyone knows, this month, well, September ended kind of weirdly. It ended in the middle of a week, ended on a Wednesday. And because it did, I was, figuring, gee, I'm doing the new releases or whatever, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to stop, the second day of the week of new releases to do a marathon like this. So I decided to do it near the end of the week. So technically it is October. But, yeah, welcome. I'm Darkside Phil, of course. And I hope that you're ready for a fun day of indie games. So, FYI... the results of the polling. So everyone knows, August patrons of mine nominated and voted over the month of September for what games I should play during this cool marathon today. And there were probably about 10 to 12 games that were all mentioned, but there were 6 games overall that were mentioned more than all of the others. And therefore... I decided to narrow it down to those and have it be a poll on my website, thekingofhate.com. And so it was a poll where you could vote on the 6 games, which were, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what they were. Hotline Miami, as you can see, duh. The continuation of Papers, Please, which I started during the last Indies mini marathon many months ago, and people really seemed to enjoy when I played Papers, Please. So I made that one of the selections. To the Moon, which is actually a game, an RPG-style game, old-school RPG-style game. Even though it really doesn't have any RPG combat or anything, it was made with a game that kind of looks like Final Fantasy VI. That's one I've played now, I believe, 2 to 3 sessions, and I guess people really wanted to see me conclude it today, because that was also in the running. A new game called Game Dev Tycoon, which I don't know a lot about. I believe it's one of those simple simulation games where you start in like the 1980s developing game consoles, and then you simulate, gee, how can I do during that time period, and you move into the 90s when you have the more popular ones like the Genesis and Super NES, and then moving, further into as consoles got more popular. So it's a simulation game of kind of how to develop and sell game consoles. That was one of the games in the running. In addition to that, we had 2 other games. Braid. Braid is a action-style platformer that has like a time manipulation aspect where you can go back in time, I believe. I'm not 100% on that. I think that's how it works, though. And then also a game called Facade, which I know nothing about whatsoever. I have 0 clue. So, all these games were in the running. The patrons voted over the month of September. And as of last night, we had our winners. So, FYI, in this particular order, I believe is how it went. To the Moon had the most votes, so definitely we're going to finish To the Moon today. Hopefully it'll be about an hour and a half to 2 hours to finish up that game. I hope. Fingers crossed that it's not like 5 more hours, because then I'm definitely not finishing it today. And then it was kind of a tie between Game Dev Tycoon and Papers, Please. And then coming in 4th was Hotline Miami. So what I'm going to do, if you've watched my previous Indie Games mini marathons, let me explain how it's going to work if you haven't. If you have, you kind of know the gist of it. The way it works is, I'm going to start with a game here. I'm going to play it for probably around an hour and a half, I would think. And after about an hour and a half of playing Hotline Miami, which will be the first game today, I'm going to take a short break to switch the games. And get everything, situated, take a break, probably get a new drink, use the bathroom, whatever. And then after that short break, we're going to come back and play another game. And then I'll, after playing that one for a little bit, take a break, etc., etc. So, FYI, just so there's no misconceptions, the stream is starting, right now. And it's going to run roughly 7 hours. And what I mean when I say that is, it started a little bit after noon. So probably we'll go between... I'll be ending the stream sometime between 7 and 8 p.m. Pacific time. Right now, it's actually 12:25 p.m. Pacific time. So we're talking, around 7 hours of a stream here. And I just want to make it clear, this is not a guarantee of any kind of a full playthrough of any of these games that I'm playing. Alright, this is just, the reason I'm playing these games is taking time out from, a schedule of playing newer games is because it's a special reward to the patrons for reaching a goal level of funding back in August. And, I'm appreciative of that, and people want to see a variety of stuff. Patreon really has allowed me this year to do a wide variety of stuff that normally I would never do. I played games like Minecraft and Persona 4 and Yakuza 4, which I probably never would have touched if it weren't for Patreon, let's face it. I was able to do several different marathons. This is the third Indies mini marathon that I've done this year. In addition, I did a Crash Bandicoot 1 and 2 marathon. So, we did 4 marathons. This is the 5th one. Pretty crazy when you think back about it. You're like, holy shit, wow. Yeah, Phil did do 5 marathons this year as a result of Patreon. Plus, right now the microphone I'm using and the fact that my office is a lot more... what's the word for catching audio? There's a word for it. Whatever. It's a lot more like almost like a recording studio rather than an echoey hall, which is what it used to sound like before I had all these improvements. So all this is due to Patreon, and I'm very grateful for that. So I do want to say special thank you to those who did pledge in the month of August and made this marathon possible. Thank you to those of you who've pledged overall at all this year. That's awesome of you, and you allow me to not only improve and do these special events and all kinds of fun stuff, but you also allow me to continue to do this full time. As I said earlier this year, without Patreon, sadly, I might not have been able to do this full time as a job. There's a lot of falling off, especially someone who's been around as long as me doing YouTube the way that I do it, and not changing my formula to something that's more of a mainstream thing. This has really been a kind of a godsend this year, and it's really allowed me to branch out and do better stuff. I actually think this is one of the best years I've ever done YouTube, because it's not just me every day playing 8 hours of new games and pumping out the videos and being monotonous and getting burnt out on what I'm doing. It's not that at all. And that's good. It's good to do different things and to be refreshed and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm digressing here a little bit, but I am thankful to those of you who have been patrons this year. FYI, I'll do a quick Patreon update for the month of September. As you know, September closed 2 months ago, yes. September closed 2 days ago. And right now, Patreon is in the process of trying to process all of the pledges for the month of September. Now, if you remember, the big goal for September was to have a Halloween marathon at the end of this month, but we had to hit the $1,250 funding level in order to do this marathon. That's the point. The point of having these goals on Patreon is to try to motivate people to pledge to see fun events. So, right now, I have absolutely no idea if we're going to hit that goal. I can tell you this. We had a bunch of malicious people kind of doing fake pledges over the month, which you can't do anything about. I talked to Patreon about it, and of course they blew the smoke up my butt, saying, we're trying to upgrade our business, we're trying to make it so that people don't do that anymore, but really right now there's no protection against it. So really at the end of the month, I have no idea what the actual pledge amounts were on Patreon, because I know we had false bidders. And in addition to that, I can tell you right now, I tweeted about this a little while ago. We've got a lot of pledges that were declined. This happens every month, though, where we get about probably 12 to 20 people. Typically, I have around 150 patrons a month of various, levels of pledges, and probably around a dozen to 20 people get declined. Now, usually I wait a few days, and then I message those people on Patreon, and some of them update their info, and their pledges go through. And then others, unfortunately, never update their info, or maybe they weren't legit to begin with, who knows. And so, even though you see on my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/darksidephil, that I might have hit my goals, it's not true at all. That's if every single pledge is valid and goes through, that's what I raise. And it's another issue with Patreon, is it's not transparent. They claim that they're transparent when in reality they're not at all. It's actually a lie. I'd be surprised if some of these successful Patreon users, right? I mean, there's people who have Patreon, they supposedly raise $10,000 to $20,000 a month. Obviously, nowhere near what I, am doing here on the website. But imagine how much of that must be fake. I'm sure there's fakers, putting up fake bids and fake pledges all the time. And there's no way to fix that. So, that's really not the reality of the situation. It's kind of annoying, but... So anyway, I'll have more info in the next few days. Into the next week about, if we actually did hit the goal level to do the Halloween marathon. I hope we do. I would love to do it, but hey, I gotta stick to my guns on this one, because the thing is, there's no point and having goal levels if I'm just going to do the events anyway. You know what I mean? So I have to motivate. The way to motivate people to pledge is to do these special events. And I hopefully will hit the 1250 in funding. We'll see. We have to see what happens when all is said and done. And by the way, I do have a way. I did figure out a way to show you exactly what I did actually get or make via pledges in a month. I have to wait, though, for the pledges to all process in order to show you that. But I do have a way to show you what was pledged and what actually got processed. So I will be doing that in the next week. So more info on the next event and the next marathon coming shortly. All right. So enough about that. How's this marathon going to go down? Right now, we're going to start with Hotline Miami. I'll be honest. Last time I did an indie marathon, I got way too caught up in Hotline Miami. I ended up playing it for like 2.5 hours. People were kind of disappointed because they wanted to see me do other games. But I ended up getting so caught up with Hotline Miami that I really didn't pay attention to the other games, and because of that, I didn't play as many as I had hoped. So today I'm putting a limit on myself. All right, I'm going to start playing Hotline Miami first. That's why I'm doing it first, so that I don't get distracted and lose track of time. And I'm going to be playing this for roughly about an hour and a half. So around 2 p.m. Pacific time, I'm going to stop playing Hotline Miami. We're going to take our break. And then when I come back, I'm either going to be doing Game Dev Tycoon or Papers, Please after that. One or the other. I'm going to be honest with everyone. I'm a little nervous about Papers, Please. I really like the game. I actually really enjoyed playing it last time I did. But, that being said, unfortunately, it is a tricky game where you need to be paying attention to a ton of things so you don't miss stuff and fail. And now I haven't played this game for months, and I get the feeling when I go back into it today to continue the game, I'm going to be so off. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be missing everything because I don't remember what even to look for. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that when we get to it. But we're going to start here with Hotline Miami, and we're going to go from there, all right? Last but not least, the schedule for the next few days, just so everyone knows what's going on. Tomorrow, I will be doing more NBA 2K 16, only this time, instead of story-based, because there is no more story. I beat the story as of yesterday. Not yesterday, 2 days ago. Excuse me, Wednesday night, I beat the story of the game. We're going to continue on with the career mode and just investigate what the real career mode is like once that Spike Lee story is over. So that's going to be a few hours tomorrow of NBA gameplay. And quite honestly, that's probably going to be the last NBA 2K gameplay that I do. There's really nothing else to do in the game besides the campaign, or not the campaign, the career. And I really don't think that many people want to see me just be playing the plain vanilla basketball game. They actually wanted to see me do the story, which I've already beaten. So, one more session of that tomorrow. There will be a new DSP Tries It tomorrow as well on my vlogging channel, The King of Hate Vlogs. So check that out. Sunday and Monday, I am going to dedicate myself to trying to complete Crash Bandicoot 2. If you remember, several months ago at the end of July, I did a mini marathon. This was actually the last marathon that I did, was of Crash Bandicoot 2. And I played the hell out of the game, but I didn't beat it. In fact, I got a little bit more than halfway through it of a completionist run, meaning I was getting all of the items, I was doing all the secret objectives, getting all the gems and all of that. And I ended up, only getting about halfway through. And a lot of people got upset because they're like, oh, we really want to see Phil finish this game. Why doesn't he just do it? And I explained, because the game was a special event marathon for Patreons. Like I said, what's the point of having a goal if you're just going to do it anyway? Then there's no motivation for people to pledge to Patreon. That's the whole point of goal levels on Patreon, doing special events you normally wouldn't do. So I didn't have time, quite honestly, throughout the months of August and September, with all the other stuff going on. I didn't really have time to continue with Crash Bandicoot 2. I did other projects and new games and stuff like that. But I find myself in the unique situation the next couple of days until the new releases come out this Tuesday, with really not having a lot going on at all. There's nothing going on. I was going to play Tony Hawk more, but as you know, that game was terrible. I did a big video rant about it last night on DSPGaming. If you haven't seen it yet, certainly check that out. But there's really nothing else to do, so I said, you know what, I got a couple days. Even if not a lot of people really care about it that much, there was a vocal group of people who really did want to see me continue on with Crash Bandicoot 2. So I'm going to be doing that Sunday and Monday. And that's going to be the extent of the stuff that I'm working on until the new releases come out this Tuesday. Big new releases: Transformers, Metal Gear Solid Online. I think there's supposed to be some kind of a Minecraft episodic game possibly this week, or it might be the next week. I keep getting confused which week it is. And there's other stuff too, like this Gaia 5. So I'm going to be very, very busy this week with new releases. So I figure let's take a couple days, maybe dig back into Crash and see if maybe at first if I could just beat the game, which I think is easy to beat, just beat. It's hard to beat it completionist. So that's going to be Sunday and Monday. And again, that's another thing. It's been so long since I played that. It's been, what, 2.5 months? So I'm probably going to suck terribly at it. And I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see. So that is it for the pre-stream, everyone. I'm going to end it now. Hopefully more people will show up over the course of the stream. Keep in mind, this stream is a lot earlier. Typically, my stream doesn't start for another half hour or so. So maybe a lot of people didn't realize there was an earlier start time today. If so, it's not that big of a deal. This is a reward for people who pledged and wanted to see me do something different. So it really doesn't matter to me how many we get on the stream. It's not a big deal, you know. Alright, so let's get started with Hotline Miami. Like I said, we'll play it for around an hour and a half. We'll end around 2 p.m. Pacific time. I'll take a break. We'll swap over to another game, and we'll go from there. Okay, everybody? Alright, thanks very much for being here. I appreciate it. And let's begin with the Indies Mini Marathon for October 2015. Very nice.